the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic trick. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast here on a Wednesday. So we're ready to rip and tear into all things that was in round 24 of the NRL Supercoach season and looking ahead to round 25. Only a couple of weeks remaining for Supercoach. Obviously, the season is drawing to a close, and even less so for most head-to-head finals. Of course, head-to-head finals nowadays typically end round 26. So this week, you're essentially in a preliminary final, I believe. So if you have made it to this far in your head-to-head finals, you need to win this one to get to the big dance next week, which comes 1 week earlier than the typical NRL season. Once again, if you're listening on an audio platform, this is up on the YouTube. So we've got the face cam going and we have everything up on screen. It's a better place to be, so head over there to get involved. But for those of you who are watching on the YouTube, let's get right into it. You guys can see the score that we have up on screen. A score of 1,384 points for round 24. So the top 7% of scores for the round, exactly 11,280th best score of the week, to be fair, of the round of the week, whatever you'd like to call that, moves us up 151 spots into a season rank of 5,390th. So, a few things to note there. Pretty happy with the score overall. Lots of massive scores in round 24. So we hit a few of them, namely the massive pod captain, which of course we'll get into. I'm not sure. It was teased on the Instagram, so if you guys watched the episode last week, but you're not following the Instagram, you wouldn't have seen what we'd done. The trades end up changing, which again, notified on the Instagram, and of course the captain was teased there as well. But if we didn't hit that captain, we're in a world of hurt. But we managed to hit that, went up 151 spots. Green arrows in general we're always pretty happy with, but of course with only a few rounds remaining, we want to be making big moves. I don't think I'm anywhere near a chance of first place this year, but for me, I want to be a top 1% of all scores. We're currently in the top 3%, a total score of 27,464, which is not a bad spot to be, but for me personally, I want to be in that top 1% or at least top 1,000 teams. So let's get into the team specifically and talk a little bit about how they all went. In the hooker position, Harry Grant, 57 points. Not really doing a massive amount for us, Harry, but he did score a ton a couple weeks ago. So hooker's a pretty dead position, except for one player, which, let's talk a little bit about him here, because he's not going to feature too heavily in trades. But Jacob Little, I feel like he's the man we have all missed. Now, he was discussed a little bit in a couple NRL fantasy circles that I'm namely in the group chat, the NRL Rising Stars podcast sort of group chat, where we have a good little bit of banter there. NRL Fantasy Fanatics, who we had on earlier in the week to discuss NRL, the round 24 NRL, and how that all panned out. So if you're just interested in normal footy, go and give that podcast a listen. I'm sure you'll find that quite interesting. But we had them on. They earmarked Jacob Little pretty early into the season. I think around like 9 or so, around 10, like pretty darn early. They picked him up. It turns out he has actually just been the best hooker for a long time. If I hit by average, he's now into the 4th highest averaging hooker, averaging 72.7 across his last 3, 73 points per game across his last 5. We've slept on him. He is absolutely killing it. Looking at his scores, 93, 65, 60, 72, 75, 70, 90, 63, 69, 52, 102. He has not gone sub 50 since round 10, and even that was only a 45. He has genuinely been insane. Someone that we've all sort of slept on, and hooker's just sort of a weird position that, especially at this end of the season, not really a position we want to be trading in. However, if you are in a boat that, say, you've got a Connor Watson and maybe enough and you need to trade one because Connor Watson's out with a head knock, or maybe even if you've got a Reece Robson who's on the bye, if you're looking for any hooker to finish the season, Jacob Little is well clear of anyone else, in my opinion. He may not have the absolute ceiling of a Harry Grant or maybe even an Api Coruscant, but his floor is bigger. He won't miss any games because the Dragons are still fighting for the top 8. So we've thrown it in here, but if you are looking for hookers, Jacob Liddle is the answer. But let's get a little bit back into the team. 57 from Grant. But look, we'll just take it at this point. As I said, hooker's a bit of a weird dead position. So 57 we will take. Jake Simpkin did not play. Front row, we had the 80 points from Fanua Blake with a little try assist to Sean Johnson, which spiked him up again. He's been the best front row forward all year. I was a bit baffled a few weeks ago when everyone flocked to Payne Haas instead of him. I know, fair enough, if you owned Fanua Blake and you wanted Haas as well, that was all good and well. Of course, Haas went down, so that stuffed everyone up, and that's tough, but for me, Fanua Blake has been the clear standout front rower all season. And to me, Mitch Barnett is second to Payne Haas, to Fanua Blake, and he would have been ahead of Payne Haas. So the Warriors front row is killing it, and 80 points we take. 46 from Curran. He keeps stuffing up that shoulder, but the Bulldogs aren't really in a position to not play him. They do have Max King named on the extended bench this week, which we'll discuss a little bit when it comes to team lists. Whether or not that impacts him, if he does get brought into the team, Max King, I'm not sure what the minutes Curran plays, if he plays harder in shorter minutes or you want him playing big minutes. Not really something I'm sure of, but Jack DeBellin and Terrell May, my other two front rowers, 43 and 42 points from them. Didn't play either of them. All three of those players in those mid-40s or low 40s. There's not too much difference between all of them. In fairness, Jack DeBellin did have a sin bin, so probably missed out on a few points there, but I'm not really sure what the best front row out of the three is, but we will discuss that when it comes to our sit v starts, who I choose out of those ones. Let's move into the second row here. David Fafita, 77. Love to see that. In a game, again, that the Titans didn't really have a whole lot. He just kept, punching away at it. Jaden Sewer, I thought, done a really good job of containing him. So for him to still punch out 77 is really good. Angus Crichton, 57. Has been a bit disappointing since we've owned him, to be honest. One of those players that everyone sort of just flocked to after Origin, and for good reason. He's been the best second rower essentially all year. Hasn't really hit the heights yet, and the Roosters are still winning games, so I don't know what the go with Crichton is. He's definitely not a sell, someone you're pretty happy to own regardless, but I would like a little bit more out of him. Britton Nikodar, 74 points. There was another try in that, but it was off a kick, so no line break. Again, taking a 74 points on face value, we're pretty darn happy with. The bench, though, 47 from Olakau'atu. Not ideal. Manly, they did beat the Warriors, but it wasn't like a comprehensive victory. Warriors defended pretty good. The main problem was that Olakau'atu was mainly used as a decoy or like a sweep play. So he's not really hitting the line hard, and even when he is, they're not hitting him when he does hit that line. So it's a little bit interesting. However, Manly do come up against the Tigers this week, so I do think he's still a player, but again, we'll discuss that a little bit more in depth when it comes to the sit v start. So if you're interested in that, you can skip ahead, but I'd advise keeping it with the video. Bo Fermor did not play, but he is back this week, which is a big boost for our side, and Viliami Fafita did not play. Now, the halfbacks, of course, the talk of the town, Nathan Cleary injured once again. He's going to be a trade for everyone who does still have trades, which luckily I am one of them. In fact, I, of course, reversed my Zach Lomax trade last week for a few reasons. Of course, when we mentioned it, we were talking beers and break-evens and versing Guru head-to-head, and if he brought in Lomax, then it would have nullified me bringing him in. So I didn't end up doing it, but the main reason I ended up doing it was I thought I was going to lose to Guru regardless at that point. So I just said, look, we'll reverse these trades and we'll look to do a double of Reece Walsh and Nathan Cleary out for some big guns this week. So we just held firm with our trades last week. Thankfully, we ended up getting the victory over Guru regardless. So we have moved into our prelims this week, which is amazing. The issue is young Leaves, who I really wanted to verse this week in the prelims to head into the final boss of Corn in the grand final, which these boys are up on my page. You can see them. Give them a follow. Corn and Leaves are going pretty well, but Corn especially flying really, really high up the ranks. So I thought Leaves was going to lose that game, and then I'd get to verse him and have Corn as a final boss. Leaves won that game against Corny, so now I've got Corny this week if I want to verse Levi in the grand final, which is going to be a very tough ask. Once again, I'm happy to do my trades, out in public, so he can sort of match me and verse me head to head. But I think he's pretty set with his team that he doesn't need to do too much to beat me. He's got a really solid squad with a lot more trades left. But the Cleary injury is an interesting one for those who don't have trades left. We will discuss that in the trades section, who the best replacements are. But with no trades left, it's a hard one to get rid of, especially at his price point. Luckily, we can use our last two to get him out of the side, which is a big bonus for us. Does leave us with no trades remaining for the final couple weeks, but that's where we're going to have to live, and we're going to have to trust in the boys to do that. But 61 points before he went off the field, we will take. Everyone sort of copped that, so it's not really a big deal. Sammy Walker, one of our reserves, got 52. I expect a little bit more in the Roosters demolition, but again, I'll just take it, I suppose. Jaden Campbell, 56, bailed out with a try I didn't think should have been a try. There was no line break involved because it was a kick, but I don't think it should have been a try. He, to me, if you drop the ball, you have to visibly play at it with your foot. To me, he just happened to drop the ball on his foot and then they gave it a try. But 56 points, we'll take once again. Jai Gray, another one of our reserves, got 90, which we're ecstatic with, and I will probably be looking to play him this week. Then we come to our centre wings. Now, the captain we went with was pretty big balls. We ended up switching, once we reversed our trades and got Lomax out, who was going to be our captain, I threw it on Val Holmes, and a hat trick and 145 points, which was, I believe, the top score of the round. So doubling that to 290 was pretty darn big for us, and something that really kept us in, because, as I said, a lot of big scores this week. A few players I didn't own, namely your Tom Trebojevich's, your Jacob Kiraz's, who I didn't own, who went really large. So to get the 145 of Holmes doubled was a lifesaver for us. So could not have been happier with that. Dom Young, 128. You love to see that, and you love to own that. Jesse Ramian, 64. Just keeps doing it in this base points. He's a bit of a weapon. I want some more attacking stats to finish this season, though, from Ramian. If he doesn't, I won't be too disappointed because he's done amazingly. But I want attacking stats. That's why he's my pod. So hopefully we can get them to come. But 64 points, once again, we will take. And 61 points from Garrick, we will take, but was hoping for a bit more. Our reserve centre wings, Kayla Ito was a late out with illness, so we didn't end up playing him. Moved that reserve onto Greg Marju, who punched out a 74, which all but wrapped up that. It came down right down to the wire against Guru. Didn't win by a whole lot. But the Greg Marju try, that wrapped it up for me, which was beautiful to see. So pretty therapeutic, that. And 74 points we will take. Casey McLean, not Jesse. 87. We didn't play him, unfortunately, because he went insane. I thought he was fantastic. He ended up making my team of the week, just from a general NRL standpoint. Also over on the Instagram, so give that a like. 87. Missed out on a few points there, but looking at my reserves, there wasn't anyone that I was going to take off for Casey McLean. And then the fullbacks, 70 points from Kalen Ponga. Again, not a whole lot of attacking stats. He did come up with the try assist for Greg Marju, but there wasn't much for the Knights on offer. Their attack doesn't look all that good. I'm still a happy owner, but I want to see a bit more in the coming weeks. And Reece Walsh was injured and did not play. So that's how the team lined up. Let's have a look through the team list for round 25 before we get into our trade segments. So round 25 kicks things off with the Tigers and the Seagulls tomorrow. So that's the Thursday game. A few changes for the Tigers, one of which was Heath Mason. He did actually start at fullback last week, with Jareem Buller being a late out, and he's now out for the season with, I believe it was back surgery. So he's out, and Heath Mason, his name to start at fullback. Solomon Alamalo comes onto the wing, and Junior Tupou finally returns from his injury in the centres, replacing Adam Doohy and whoever that other winger was, Luke Lali'i, the young fella. So they drop out of the squad. So essentially a whole new rookie side for the Tigers there, and they come up against the Seagulls, which is why a lot of people will be looking at some Seagulls players this week. Of course, Tom Trebojevic being the main man, who I don't own, but we will discuss him a little further later. Not a whole lot else going on for the Tigers. For the Seagulls, Tolatau Kula comes in to start after being on the bench last week. He starts at centre this week, with Tommy Talau dropping out with a little bit of an injury there. Not a whole lot else going on for them. Moving into the next game, the Wars take on the Bulldogs in Shaun Johnson Stadium in New Zealand. They have renamed the stadium for this week, which is just a really cool thing there. But the Warriors, they've named essentially the exact same side. I actually don't think they've made... The only change is that Wade Egan, who was a late out last week, comes back to start at hooker Freddie Larsick drops to the bench, and Chanel Harris-Tavita drops to the reserves. For the Bulldogs, not a whole lot going on here either, but as we mentioned, Max King is amongst the reserves and could make a late return to that side, which, not sure what that means for Josh Curran. Let's move into the Broncos and the Eels. Now, Broncos coming off the bye. Reece Walsh did the broken hand before the bye, so of course he's out, replaced by Tristan Saylor at fullback. The other weird one in here, Selwyn Cobbo also back into the side after missing a few weeks out of the game with, I think, personal reasons and some of the court stuff going on. But he's back and named on the wing, so that seemingly they've given up on that centre experiment. They've moved Dean Mariner back into the centres, which I think is a better option. I'm not the biggest fan of Dean Mariner, I won't lie, but to me, I think Selwyn Cobbo is a better winger. So for me, better for the Broncos going forward. Their forward pack, not a whole lot there. Xavier Willison still starting at front row with Payne Haas out, and Josh Rogers still at 5'8" with Ezra Mam out. For the Eels, Mike Acevo starts on the wing in this one with Jake Tungo dropping out of the squad. Sean Lane also moves from second row to front row with Wiramu Greg suspended. And Kelma Tuolangi starts at second row instead. But those are the only changes for the Eels there. And then we go to the Raiders and Panthers. A few changes to the Raiders. Not overly Supercoach relevant, but we'll run through them real quick. Rapana returns at fullback, which moves KO Weeks to 5'8". Adam Cook out of the squad. And Adam Cook to 18th man, so essentially out of the squad, might make an appearance, but not Supercoach relevant. Albert Hopewate comes in on the wing, moving Sebastian Chris back to centre, and Ethan Strange out of the squad. Now, I don't know if there's a injury there. Oh, it says there's a calf injury, but I'm not sure if it's really a calf injury. To me, it seemed like a bit of a dropping, which I don't agree with, but he also gave him a rest 2 weeks ago, so we'll have to see what the go is there. Hopefully it is, well, hopefully not an injury, but it would have been pretty harsh to drop Ethan Strange out of the squad if it's not an injury. For the Panthers, Jerome Luai, he is now at halfback, of course, with Nathan Cleary out. Brad Schneider starts at 5'8", and not a whole lot there. Luke Summerton starts at hooker with guy whose name I can't remember, the hooker. Mitch Kenny out with suspension as well. Jack Cole also on the bench for the Panthers. Actually a very small bench there. Jack Cole, Trent Tolau both on the bench, and then Lindsay Smith and Liam Henry. So interesting stuff there. We will discuss the Nathan Cleary stuff more in the trade section. Storm and Dolphins. Tyron Wishart starts on the wing with Grant Anderson out with a bit of an injury. So cool to see Tyron Wishart starting. He can just play everywhere. He's such a gun. We spoke a little bit about him also on the podcast, so go give him a listen, or go give that podcast a listen. Not much else going on for the Storm. For the Dolphins, they've named an unchanged team as well. So yeah, that's about it there. Going into the Rabbitohs and the Knights, we have no changes for the Rabbitohs. Dean Hawkins starts at halfback with Cody Walker out with concussion, and that's the only sort of change there. For the Knights, Dylan Lucas named to return at centre, replacing Kyle McCarthy, was it? The young fella who made his debut last week. So, yeah, we see Dylan Lucas back at centre and not much else going on there. Will Price is onto the bench, though, so good to see Will Price getting a shot there. And, Tyson Gamble is out, and Jack Cogger starts at 5'8". Titans Roosters up next. Nothing going on for the Titans except Beau Fermore's return, which we mentioned. And the Roosters, not a whole lot there, but Jared Warrior-Hargraves returns from his suspension at front row, which moves Spencer Leniu back to the bench. And then we move into the Dragons and the Sharkies for the Sunday game. Is this the last game? Yes, last game. Sharkies and Dragons, or Dragons and Sharkies, I should say. Jack Bird starting at 5'8", not Supercoach relevant, but good to see him playing. The Fiene twins are both of the centres. Lomax and Tui Pelotu on the wings. Standard forward pack. Raymond Faitala-Mariner comes onto the bench for King Togia, who made his debut last week. For the Sharkies, Kayla Ito returns at centre for Siosifa Talakai. Sam Stonestreet comes onto the wing for Sione Katoa as well. Braden Trindle back at halfback moves Blake Brayley to hooker, Cameron McInnes back to lock, and Jack Williams to the bench. Now that is all of the teamless changes. Before we get into what I'm doing for my team and the pod buys, let's look at most of the traded in and out this week. So of course, the number one traded out makes sense. It's Nathan Cleary. There's not much to say. he's definitely a trade. Whether or not it's this week or next, it's all sort of dependent. I'll be trading this week because I, like the options available to me. But you could potentially look to hold. There is rumours that Nicho Hynes could be back as early as next week. And if you have the cash you'll have the cash. You can move Cleary to anyone. If you have the trades and stuff to do that, Nathan Cleary to Nicho Hynes to finish the season could be pretty spectacular, to be honest. But keep in mind, if you're also fighting for head-to-head finals and whatnot, I'd probably be looking to move him on quick smart, which I will be doing. Scott Drinkwater, the next most traded out. This one's an interesting one. Levi and I were talking about this. So does have the bye this week and then comes back to Melbourne Bulldogs. Tough games to finish the season. However, there's a lot of talk that the Storm are mass resting next week. So that would be against the Cowboys. It's also in North Queensland. So I think he's a hold, to be honest. There are some great fullbacks out there, and if you've got a heap of trades and you want to do it, I don't hate it. Tom Trbojevic, James Tedesco, and Dylan Edwards, I think, are all better and all are good trades. But Scott Drinkwater against a decimated Storm team with restings in North Queensland, I like. And I also think that round 27 against the Bulldogs isn't as bad as it seems, because every bit of attack that comes from the Cowboys comes through Scott Drinkwater. And I think they'll be looking to test themselves against that Bulldogs team. So I like the Drinkwater hold, but I can understand in some scenarios the sell. Valentine Holmes next most sold. The same reasons I just mentioned, Drinkwater, I'd be holding Val, especially after his big score last week. Cody Walker, the next most sold. Makes sense with the concussion and not doing a whole lot, and the rest aren't really relevant. Traded in players, Daly Cherry Evans is the number one. Now, he is someone that I'll spoil one of my trades now. I will be bringing Daly Cherry Evans in this week. I also own Sam Walker. I do think Sam Walker is the best Nathan Cleary replacement, but as an owner already, not the man I'm going to be going for. Daly Cherry Evans I like for the Seagulls draw. I think, West Tigers this week, and then they have two more decent-ish matchups to finish the season. I think they get a little bit harder. It might be Sharkies and Bulldogs or something like that to finish. Regardless, I still like Daly Cherry Evans. I think Manly won't really be resting players. I think he can score pretty well. He finished the season last year with a bang. I like Daly Cherry Evans as a trade in. Number 2 is Sam Walker, who we just mentioned. Yeah, I think he's the best trade in target for Nathan Cleary. However, we also mentioned that Roosters are probably going to be resting as well. So just be mindful of that when you're bringing him in. Jerome Luai, the next most traded in. I like it. Not as much as the other two. Jerome Hughes, the next most traded in. Yeah, look, these are all just Nathan Cleary replacements, which is fair enough. Hughes I like the least because Melbourne are pretty certain to rest, and I think he'd be one of those players. I don't know. Look, there's a few options. For me, Daly Cherry Evans and Sam Walker are the two best ones. So just whichever one of those that you don't own, get them in my opinion, or wait next week for Hynes. Everyone else on the list, not a whole lot going on there. So let's go have a look at our pod players. So best buys, round 25, point of difference players. Once again, if you're listening on an audio platform, this one is posted to the Instagram with the graphics and all the information that I write down over on that. So you can go and pull it up on your phone, pull it up on your computer, pull up Instagram and have a look at this. Really important stuff when you're looking to make your trades, especially if you're looking for head-to-head finals or even just to move yourself high up in the ranks to finish the season. These pod players are the sort of players that you really want to be looking at. Even if you don't agree with the 3 that I've put up this week, look back at the weeks before that, because the weeks before that are still very relevant. So Daly Cherry Evans, for example, I had him in last week's pod buys before the Nathan Cleary injury news. So otherwise he would have featured in this week. But let's get into these ones. Starting with Dylan Edwards. The Nathan Cleary injury has caused chaos all throughout Supercoach this week, but one man who benefits from it is Dylan Edwards. The highest averaging player this year has scored 6 100-plus games across his 14 games across the season, but even more impressively has averaged 100.5 points per game in games without Cleary this season. His draw to finish is near perfect, with the only question being whether or not he gets rested on the run home. But after spending 5 weeks on the sideline before this week, I see him playing all remaining games. If you can do it, do it. Yeah, I mean, I've said it all there. As I said, if you're watching the video, you can see all the stats up on screen. I'm not going to read those out to you because they're right in front of your face, but this is all the really important stuff that you want to know when making a trade. I really, really like Dylan Edwards as a trade-in now that he's goal kicking, someone I'm very much looking at, but we'll discuss a little bit further when it comes to my trades. But let's get into our second pod player, Dane Gagai. High upside pods are so important at this end of the season for head-to-head finals and overall rankings, so centre wings will feature prominently, and Dane Gagai fits that bill. While he only boasts a weekly average of 7 points per game in scoring, his base and evade see him average a whopping 60 points at his lowest, and I also think he finds some attacking stats with the soft draw to come. He will almost certainly play every game with the Knights not in a position to rest players. Very solid one to consider. Yeah, I mean, I've said it all there. Once again, stats up on screen. He's an interesting one because his upside isn't amazing. Like, he doesn't score a heap of tries, but as I said, he's been, 3-round average of 73. He's been basing incredible. I think he does get some attacking stats. I really like him as an option. And let's move into our last player, Jai Gray. Since we included DCE last week in our pod buys and the other halfbacks are pretty highly owned, we decided to include Jai Gray as a Nathan Cleary replacement if you have the duels to bring him in. His matchup this week is very nice against the Knights, but he does have 2 tough games to follow. My early mail is that the Panthers may rest players next week, which could mean good things, but regardless, he seemingly scores well against most opponents. Worth a look in. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Jai Gray owner. I was surprised that he's only owned by 5% of players. I'm definitely playing him this week. I do think he's a play next week, but, for me, I've also got Jaden Campbell, so I may not have to. I don't know. I really like him over the other halfback options. If you own, I think DCE and Walker are, the best. Walker's highly owned though, and DCE, I'm going to be bringing him in regardless, and I think he's about to get pretty highly owned. I like Jai Gray. I really do. So, it's just something to consider, throwing it out there. Another man I was very, very close to putting on this list was Christian Tuipulotu from the Dragons. Now, his base has been insane as of recently. They're favouring the right-hand side in attack still, the Dragons, but he's scoring a few on the left. I really like Christian Tuipulotu. The Dragons also have a pretty decent draw to come, and once again, if we talk about restings, he's not getting rested because the Dragons need to win every game to sort of make finals. So I do like Christian Tuipulotu. Very much worth a look in if you're looking in the centre wing department. Let's get back to my team and discuss the trades that I personally am doing. Now, we mentioned who they are. It's a Nathan Cleary and Reece Walsh trade out. That's pretty evident. They're very highly priced, and I need their points. Now, who we bring in, we said one of them was Daly Cherry Evans because I already own Sam Walker. Leaves me with over $1 million to spend on my fullback. Now, I've already got Kalen Ponga, so the clear answers are James Tedesco or Tom Trbojevic. But as we mentioned in our pod buys, Dylan Edwards is the man I like most. Now, I've been very, very close to Tom Trbojevic this week, especially because of, the Tigers matchup. And he could just go huge and end my season. However, I've just got bad vibes about it. I always have bad vibes about Turbo because seemingly every time I trade him in, he gets injured. I think if the Seagulls are up by big, in the first half, if they're up by 30-0 at half time, they probably don't put Turbo on for the second half. And if that's the case, everybody who's captaining him and whatnot, maybe you only he might have 100 at half time. That's a very real possibility. But for me, I've got bad vibes. I think Dylan Edwards, he goes really big against the Raiders anyway. So I don't think the points difference will be huge. It could be, if they do play Turbo the entire game and he just goes ballistic against a decimated Tigers team, very well could be. But if he gets rested halfway through the game or if he gets injured, it could be killer for other people and a massive boost for me. So I'm going to bring in Dylan Edwards as my fullback. So those are the trades. That's a Nathan Cleary and Reece Walsh out, Daly Cherry Evans and Dylan Edwards are in. Let's look at a little bit of sit v starts before we get into our captains. So, one of our reserves will be a Dylan Edwards this week. That's just how it goes. You know what? Let's go through it from top to bottom, from hooker down. Harry Grant has to start. Front row position, Adam Fanua-Blake starts. Do we play Curran, May, or DeBellin? I'm not convinced. I'm not going to play May. I'm not convinced on Curran or DeBellin. DeBellin did get sin bin last week, so probably would have got 55 to 60 points, which is better than Curran, but you can't really know, and his minutes have been fluctuating. In the end, I don't think it's going to be a massive difference between the two. I think I'll keep it on Curran. Might change it if Max King is a late, put into the side, and I might go JDB. I might go JDB regardless, but yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be too much of a difference. For now, we'll leave it as Josh Curran and Fanua-Blake as my front rows, and I won't be giving either May or DeBellin a reserve tag. Second row will remain as Fafita, Crichton, and Nikita, and we will definitely be giving one of our reserves to Olakau'atu. I just think that Tigers matchup is too juicy, regardless of the fact that they've been using him a bit more as a lead runner, or a decoy runner, I should say. So I still will put one on Olakau'atu. So there's one reserve down. Halfbacks. Walker and Cherry Evans, doesn't really matter. I'm not looking to captain either of these guys or vice captain either of these guys. However, one of them will get a reserve. So let's just throw it on. Let's give Walker the start, and Daly Cherry Evans can have a reserve. We are 2 reserves down. 5/8, Jaden Campbell, Titans versus the Roosters. It is at Seabus. But Jaden Campbell or Jai Gray, I'm going to favour Jai Gray this week. Now, I'm not the most confident in it because it is a Rabbitohs team without Cody Walker, so I don't know where their attack comes from. But I genuinely think it could just be Jai Gray doing what he does. So I'm actually looking to play Jai Gray over Jaden Campbell this week, and I'm not even going to give Jaden Campbell a reserve. So that's where my confidence is in Jai Gray at the moment, and I'm not as confident on Jaden Campbell, which, a few weeks ago I very much was saying he's the best centre 5/8 to own for the run home. He still might be, but that's only because 5/8's not a really good position. So I'm pretty happy with my 5/8s, but yeah, I don't know who else I'd really want to own. But Jai Gray will get the start this week. So we've still got 2 more reserves to go. Valentine Holmes is out with the bye. Who are we putting in? Probably Greg Marju can come into the squad. Rabbitohs versus the Knights. I like that Greg Marju matchup. He will start. Cal Iro, also back from his illness, will get our 3rd reserve. So now we've got Olakau'atu, Cherry Evans, and Iro as our reserves. And then finally, our last reserve will go to either Ponga or Edwards. However, I'm probably going to look to captain one of these guys. So let's leave it at this at the moment. Last captain's currently sitting on Edwards, but let's talk captains now. Starting with Tigers and Sea Eagles. Look, it makes sense. I think everyone's going to captain, like straight C, Tom Trbojevic. And if you're not straight captaining Tom Trbojevic, you are vice captaining him. I don't own, so I'm one of the few who can't do either of those. But I'm not too worried about it. I do still want a slice of that Manly versus Tigers action, so I will be putting a VC on Garrick this week. And I think anybody who owns, Garrick and not Turbo, yeah, definitely the best vice captain option this week. But if you are a Turbo owner, a straight C or a vice captain, it just makes sense. I'm just not doing it. And, I'm not even bringing him in. I've just got that gut feel about it. But the big thing about it is because he's going to be so highly captained in the first place, if he does go poor, if he does get injured or get rested or just doesn't go well, which would be crazy, everyone else is sort of going to be in that boat, so it won't hurt you too much. It's a big risk versus reward here for me because if I don't own him and he goes huge, everyone skyrockets. But if I don't own him and he goes small, then I'm going to be one of the very few who really benefits from it. But vice captain on Garrick, good. Vice captain or captain on Turbo, good. You could be even more pot and vice captain a Cherry Evans or an Olakau'atu or even a Jason Saab this week if you brought him in. I love that. Either way, Garrick for me. Next up, Warriors versus Bulldogs. There's no options in these two teams. There just isn't, so I'm going to ignore that game. Broncos Parramatta next up. There's not really options here. If you have Clint Gutherson, I don't hate a vice captain or a captain. I think he's going really well. I don't fully rate the Broncos, especially with all their outs, while the Parramatta Eels have been playing decent footy. And even without playing decent footy, he's scoring really well, Gutho. But again, you're talking about fullbacks. So if you have a Gutho, you probably own a Edwards, a Tedesco, or a Ponga, or a Trbojevic. And all 4 of those I like more than Gutho this week. So, yeah, I wouldn't be going Gutho either. Raiders, Panthers are up next. This is where it comes into play. This is the whole Dylan Edwards purchase and potential captain. Now, I'm torn on Edwards or Ponga. I think I'm going to go Edwards because his average just speaks for itself. And I'm just not convinced on the Knights. But Dylan Edwards as a captain against the Raiders, I adore. And that's where I'm leaning this week. Next up, Storm and Dolphins. There's not really many Storm captain options. You've got Eli Katoa if you want safe base, but he scored 2 tries last week, albeit without line breaks, but it's 2 tries and still didn't clock 100 points. Harry Grant hasn't been that reliable. Cameron Munster I wouldn't do. Jerome Hughes I wouldn't do. So I don't really like any other plays in that one, the Storm and Dolphins game. Rabbitohs Knights are up next. This is where a Kalen Ponga can come into play. Rabbitohs, they have torn to shreds with injury and whatnot, so Knights can capitalise, and I think Ponga can go pretty darn big, but I'm also not convinced on the Knights attack. So I do like a Kalen Ponga, don't get me wrong, but for me, I favour Dylan Edwards, and if you're in the boat that you own a Ponga, Tedesco, Edwards, and Trbojevic, or, any combination of them, I think Edwards, Trbojevic, and Tedesco are 3 better captains than Ponga. And, you can't really captain or vice-captain one of those and then Ponga. So if you own those 3 and Ponga, all 3 of them I prefer. If you own Ponga and none of those 3, I think Ponga's still a really good captain. Next up, Titans and Roosters. We just mentioned those captains, and this is where James Tedesco comes into play. I think he's one of the best captains of the round this week. I think I might favour it over Tom Trbojevic just because I don't like the Thursday captain curse. So James Tedesco I like. You could go Dom Young against Olofiana Khan Pereira's side, which is just that leaks points, so that's good. You could go Sam Walker. But yeah, James Tedesco for me, I really like in that one. He's my pick of the bunch. But yeah, a few good options for the Roosters boys. And then lastly, we have Dragons and Sharkies, where I wouldn't really be captaining anyone. So that leaves us with what we've done here. As we said, that's the vice captain on Garrick for us and the captain on Dylan Edwards. And that leaves us where we are. This will be our squad to finish the season. No trades remaining. It doesn't matter about the salary left in the bank. And yeah, we're going to trust in the boys to get us done. Of course, the thing that we have mentioned all season is if Harry Grant goes down and I have no trades left and I don't have a hooker left, I'm sort of screwed. And I think that will happen next week. I think he will get rested, Harry Grant. I would just trust in my AEs. If I can get through and I have, it's just scary if, the Roosters rest on the same week. I might be in trouble. But I think there's going to be a lot of people in the same boat. So we're going to trust in the depth of the squad to get it done. If we have to cop an AE from Grant, it's going to be a Terrell May, JBB, a Fermor, Campbell, McLean. They're good players who could be players in most other teams anyway. So we're trusting in the squad. That's how we're lining up for round 25. And, essentially for the rest of the season, we'll still continue these podcasts up until the very end. So a couple more weeks of this, and then Supercoach will be done for the year. We'll continue doing our general NRL stuff on the page, whether it's on the podcast that you might be listening to, the YouTube, or over on, the Instagram page. So do still stay with us. Do tune into all that stuff. Massive, massive plans for the back end of this season, and especially for next season. Hopefully some big names that we can get on this podcast too, which, just little glimpse in there, little treat. But I'm really excited for the back end. It'll be sad to see Supercoach over, but listen, enjoy it while it still lasts. This is how we line up. Excited for you guys. Good luck to all of you in your head-to-head, and good luck for the rest of the season. That'll do us here. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.